Okay, so we're looking at factorising a quadratic with a coefficient of x squared greater than 1. What does that mean? Okay, so let's start over here. A quadratic looks like this. Normally we'll see an expression looking something like this. There is no number there. The number that is there is just a 1. That x squared has a coefficient of 1. You might notice over here our x squared has a coefficient of 6, which is greater than 1. So you will need to use this method when the coefficient is greater than 1. Before we start, I'm going to write the quadratic above this. So I'm going to show you the ax squared plus the bx plus the c. Notice in this case a is 6, b is -1 and c is -12. We've got some very simple steps for this. Number 1. You multiply out a by c. So here goes a multiplied by c. So we get -72. Step 2, we find the factors of AC, because that is the factors of AC. Factors of AC that add to make B. And that is similar to what we did in factorising quadratics. So here we go. 1 times 72 is 72. I'm going to ignore the sign at the moment. 2 times 36. So I need these numbers to be quite close together. So we've got 3 and 24. We have 4 and 18. 5 doesn't go into it. We have 6 and 12. 7 doesn't go into it. We have 8 and 9. 8 and 9 have a difference of 1. B is a difference of 1, but it's a negative 1. So in this case, I'll need a -9 and a +8. That's why I left the signs out. I was just looking for the difference first to find the ones I want to use. So I want to use those two. So what we do now is we replace the -1x with +8x minus 9x. If I rewrite the 6x squared, now we replace this with +8x minus 9x, and we put the -12 on the end. Hopefully you can see that is exactly the same. Step 3, very simple. You've done this if you did the previous video. We factorise by grouping. So here goes, 2 is in both of those, 2x multiplied by 3x gives me 6x squared. 2 multiplied by 4, so it's a +4 because it's a +8x, gives me 8x. Remember, the aim is to get another bracket the same as that. I could choose to write it out and then work out what works, or I could look at this and say, well, the highest factor of both of those is 3. 3 times 3x is 9, and 3 times 4 is 12. Now, there's a minus there, so if you're unsure of what to put here, what you want to do is look at the one before. I want to have a positive in there because I want them to be the same. Close that bracket, which means that this one must be a negative, and that works because a minus times a plus gives me a minus, and a minus times a plus gives me a minus. Let's just bring those together. So we are left with 3x plus 4 and 2x minus 3, and that is factorised. So 3 straightforward steps. Multiply by AC, find the factors of AC to make B, and then factorise by grouping. Let's have a look at a few questions. Right, here goes. Here's the first one. So we multiply by AC. So 4 times 15 is 60, and a positive times a negative is a negative. You mustn't forget the sign. Now I could start finding the factors of 61 and 62 and 30 and 3 and 20 and so on. But this number is quite a low number, which means that these two numbers need to be fairly close. I'm going to start with 6 and 10 because 6 times 10 makes 60. And the difference, I can see already that the difference between 6 and 10 is 4. In fact, I need a +4, so that becomes a +10, and that becomes a -6. Again, you notice I didn't put the signs in until afterwards, until I looked at this. So I can see that I'm replacing +4p with -6p plus 10p. So here goes, 4p squared minus 6p plus 10p minus 15. I'm going to factorise these two and these two. These are multiples of 5, these are multiples of 2. So 2 is a factor of 4 and 6. P is a factor of both of those components. Multiply that by 2p to get 4p squared, and multiply that by 3 to get minus 6p. Notice the minus there. 5 is a factor of both. I want 2p minus 3. Let's see if that works. 5 times 2 is 10. That's a positive. Positive 5 times minus 3 is minus 15. That works. We just finish off by writing out the full factorisation. And there we go. Done. Last one. Multiply AC. Get minus 140. Going to start again. Rather than going 1 and 140, I'm just going to go 10 and 14. So I'm not quite close enough to the 31 difference yet. So I will half the 10 and I will double the 14. So 5 and 28, again, still not close enough. So I will go down to 2 and 70. Well, 2 times 70 is 140. A little bit further away now. So I will do 4 and 35. 4 and 35, that gives me a difference of 31. I want a positive 31, so that becomes a positive 35 and a negative 4. So I'm using those two to replace that. So we have got 14a squared minus 4a plus 35a minus 10. Factorise by grouping. Multiples of 2, multiples of 5. I'll leave them as they are. So a factor of 14 and a factor of 4 is 2. That's 2a. That becomes 7a minus 2. And if we look over here, 5 comes outside the bracket. That goes to 7a because 5 times 7 is 35. Also, I want to make it the 7a. That's got to be the minus 2 because 5 times minus 2 is minus 10. Let's just finish this off. And that's it. That's factorising quadratics with a coefficient of x squared greater than 1. Again, please like and subscribe. Well done.